Okay. Good evening, everyone. The May 21st meeting of the Manchester Planning and Zoning Commission will now come to order. First item on the agenda is the review and approval of the April 16th minutes. Everyone should have a copy of the minutes in front of them. Can you review them for a second? See if they're accurate. If not, let us know of any changes.
I make motion to approve the minutes as written.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Next, zoning administrator's report. Michelle?
Good evening.
How are you this evening?
Good, how are you all?
We're doing well, thank you.
I have just a few things. Patriots went to the county's TRC review meeting last month. You sent all of the comments that I've received thus
Yes.
far on that. You have an additional comment in your packets tonight from, with some additional information from someone who attended and then sent more information in.
Right,
All the houses in both Riley's Garden and the Hallie Hill subdivision have all been permitted, and Riley's all done, I think, practically, and the other one is starting the third house. Maverick Solar is completing all their legal documents. We think we finally have it completed, which I do have their Mylars here for signature tonight. And Antietam, the cable company, has been given the go-ahead to begin throughout town, so we will start seeing them
okay,
installing.
okay. When is Maverick expecting to start construction?
We don't know. When we finally get these documents finished, I'm sure we'll have some sort of meeting with them before they begin.
Okay.
We've got to set some times and delivery restrictions.
Very good, thank you, Michelle. Alex?
Good evening, Commission. I really don't have anything else to add. The town's moving along swimmingly, and so.
I'm sure you, despite everybody's angst about these weekend rainstorms, have been.
I'm enjoying them.
I've noticed your probably blood pressure has come down quite a bit because there were some concerns again that if we had a dry April that we could be in some significant problems. So.
I was so happy I thought I started growing hair again, but I was mistaken. But all is well.
Okay, very good. Council report, Chris?
Not just normal town council business, nothing else to report. Henry,
Okay.
thanks.
Very good. Andrew, how are you this evening?
I am well, Mr. Chair, and you?
We're doing well, thank you. I received your comments for the other project in the package. They were quite extensive and made for interesting reading material.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Just to give a brief update, number one, from the county, and then also information that you, Mr. Chair, and Commissioner Graham requested last
Yes.
month. Number one, the housing study website is live. I can provide Michelle the link for you all. The website has a survey and information about the study, a timeline, and you can sign up to receive updates. And the community needs assessment meetings and events are already scheduled around the county. Also, just for a quick briefing, the 2023 Carroll County Planning Annual Report, you in Hampstead get the information to me extremely early, so thank you very much for that.
Sure. And
And also, just to switch gears from what you inquired about last month, whoops, let's keep switching back. There we go. So, Mr. Chair, you mentioned about housing affordability bill in which the state could override local zoning in order to allow for multifamily affordable housing. And there is the House, Senate Bill 484 and House Bill 538. Basically, that bill seeks to expand the construction of new housing, particularly affordable housing, by removing local zoning barriers. It would remove local government barriers to the construction of affordable housing, provide increased density, remove certain local limitations on projects. In addition, this bill would remove local zoning barriers to manufactured housing statewide, and jurisdictions must allow for modular and modular and manufactured homes in any zoning district where single-family residential is permitted. There is more information with contacting the Maryland Department of Planning. And also, Commissioner Graham, you had a question about whether Governor Moore was coming out with housing targets for each jurisdiction in the state to meet the local housing shortage, and has Carroll County been provided a number for those for housing? And the county has not heard of any housing targets for local jurisdictions at this time. If you have any more questions, would like to follow up with me, please let me know.
And you're going to send Michelle the link for the housing study
Yes,
information?
Yep.
Okay,
will do.
thank you. Any questions for Andrew? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is, I guess, continuation of concept review for the Patapsco 91 LLC project.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission.
Good evening.
Kelly Schaefer Miller, here tonight on behalf of Patapsco 91. I have with me Linda Alexander. It's been a few months since we've been in front of you. We were last here in November. And really, the goal and intent here, there's no action being requested of you. We are trying to get a handle on the layout so that then formal submittals can be made and formal review can begin. And last time we talked through a lot of different elements of this, but one of the lingering questions was some questions related to grading and the conditions of the backyards and front yards for the development. So what CLSI has done is they have prepared greater grading detail plans that have been, I believe, provided to you all. And Linda is here, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have, but if there are any specific to that, I think that was one of the big questions that resulted from the November meeting.
So one of the questions was providing more detail for the grading or a larger scale. So the second sheet was done at 30 scale. The other request was to show,
Excuse me, Linda, can you hold the microphone or get closer to it, because it doesn't get recorded that way? Thank you.
so the several questions were the grading, showing in more detail, which was the 30 scale, as well as what was our idea for stormwater management, because we didn't really show any on-site or on the lot stormwater. We only showed like a facility down below. So we ran some conceptual numbers. You know, I'm not saying, when I say conceptual, they need to be completely computed out and put in the book and confirmed by the county and everything.
Right.
But we do show, we're not showing any dry wells because of the grading that's going to happen on here, and the depth limitations on dry wells. We're showing grass swales. We are showing a submerged gravel wetlands down in the lower area, right before the head of the wetlands. Based on the county regulations and state regulations, a lot of the ESD requirement or the water quality requirement can be in that facility. So that will be a quality facility as well as a quantity facility down there, and some of the ESD will be provided. Now, we will provide some, as we grade it more and actually finalize more spot shots and stuff on that, we may provide some wide shoulders on some driveways and that type of thing and some disconnects. But what we're trying to gain right now is we're trying to gain a general consensus, if you are reasonable with the layout, understanding that there's still this huge process to go through. The other thing that's going to involve is there's going to be some extensive testing down there in the bottom to see whether that submerged gravel wetlands is even viable based on whatever type of testing we do, okay? If we'd have been testing that last year, I'd have been worried about it because you need that saturation and water table, but we've had a lot of rain, so hopefully the wetlands have come back a little bit. One thing that has changed since you've seen this is that low area is going to end up being planted in forestry. A lot of people have been trying to go off-site with forestry. Banks are getting scarce in Carroll County. There's been some changes at the MDE level for providing trees in forested areas in the same watersheds that you're trying to develop in. So this area is prime for us to come in here and plant a huge area of that in forest conservation.
Is this site in the Tier 2?
It is.
That's where the planning
Okay.
requirement's
So-
coming from.
And so there is there is no forest banks in Carroll County in a Tier 2 watershed right now, at least in the Hampstead area. There are some in the other ones, but not in Hampstead. As of, I'm not going to say the exact date, within the last several months, MD has informed us that if you're taking out woods in a particular watershed, you better be having some bank in that watershed. So that makes this a prime area for us to come in and plant this bottom area, which is probably going to happen before you even see anything else.
Now, is the county going to accept your planting for the Tier 2 requirements to offset your reforestation requirement for,
I've
The
talked to
clearing.
Jonathan Bowman, and he
Yeah.
is excited about the fact that we have an area over in this location that
yeah, I
can be
just wasn't
planted.
sure if they were going to require separate plantings because the Tier 2 requirements are kicking those plantings
No,
in on.
he's okay with that.
that's fine. I just
It's
wanted to
just that
check.
He likes, I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to use all of it for this site, but it lends itself very well to coming in here and getting the bank. The situation that the county's been running into is up that 5-year maintenance agreement issue, so most people don't want to plant on site anymore.
Yeah, because,
So if we can come in here and plant this ahead of time,
right.
we can get a couple years on it
Yeah,
before we
because
have
it
to worry
could
about that.
potentially be as long as a 10-year bond on those things.
It's 5 years.
It's 5
Or
years, and if
longer,
it
you gotta
doesn't
have it,
fail,
yes.
they're requiring it to,
Yeah.
they say they can extend it an additional 5
Yes. Mm-hmm.
years. So it's a 10-year requirement
And this
on
would be a
that.
priority area for the county.
Oh, no
Yeah.
question about it, so.
So that's the only change that would have happened. That's why you'll notice on these plans, it talks about it being a forest conservation easement down there
Now,
for planting.
So,
we know this watershed's typically, this spot in the watershed, but have you checked to make sure that we don't have bog turtle issues down here? Because if you've got bog turtle, DNR's not going to let you plant that site.
Have not had any reaction to that at this point.
Okay, I didn't know if you'd sent out a request on an RTE letter.
We did on a piece of property downstream from it. That hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
that would be the
it may
only
come
thing
back
that
to that,
would,
yeah.
would hinder you if they said it was potential bog turtle, and then you'd have to either not plant or survey and prove that they're not there, so, okay.
So what we'd like to do is we want to have it, I know you guys don't need to act on it, but we're just trying to make sure that what we're coming in with layout-wise is reasonably acceptable, understanding that it could still have some changes that happen once we get concept, preliminary, final. But what we have to give the county from a concept perspective is almost final when it comes to stormwater. You
so
know,
with your forest, ballpark guess, how much over your requirement are you with the area you're showing?
well, considering that we're not taking out hardly any woods with the property, we're only going to have to meet a 20% here. You know, I mean, as far as the 20% for ours,
Are you at the afforestation threshold with existing, or are you below?
we're a little bit below.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so we'll have to bring it up some.
in Carroll County's regs are straightforward. It's
Yeah.
20% and 1-to-1 planning for
Right, but I
anything you
mean-
remove, so.
So you're telling me that you're basically 50% over, is what it looks like?
Or more.
Or- Okay, that
Yeah.
it's ballpark approximately
No.
50%.
And that's,
And I'm not saying that's a-
that'll be a water quality feature. If they can do that, that'll be good, so.
Yeah.
potentially.
Well, the other thing with that too is I just drew a line on there right now. Maybe we end up a little bit more by the time we're all said and done. But I do know that the town had expressed wanting to try to connect some pathways through there. I really don't want the pathways in the forest conservation easement. I like to bring it through. You know, because obviously you could put a mulch path in a forest conservation, but it does make it harder to maintain them and stuff like that if you're trying to plant trees.
So right now, stormwater seems fairly straightforward, fairly minimal.
It may not be by the time we're done, but we'll see.
Have you analyzed based on a storm? Have you analyzed based on the state's new A storm that is coming?
Yes.
And
But it's very conceptual, okay, so, you know, I mean,
Okay, so you're
yeah.
aware that it's a significant deviation in the current?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
The question is, when are they gonna bring it?
well.
You know, and when, and
That's
how's it get
everyone's guess.
grandfathered in, yeah.
Right.
yeah. I mean, the tier 2 thing just recently happened, and we had a job, that got an NOI approved in January, in the same watershed this is in, but the forest that we were taking out was over in Westminster, so we made it through. If we'd have been 2 months later, like March or April,
Yeah.
we'd have been searching for a forest bank that doesn't exist over in this area. So, And that tier two, depending on where you're at, you could be on the other side of the road and not be in the same watershed with the way they have that line drawn, but,
Yeah, it's all based on drainage areas.
Yeah.
so.
nothing else changed in the plan, just finalizing doing some fine grading and that type of thing.
Well, it's not labeled. It looks like it scales out at 3 to 1 from.
Yes, it does. There's no 2-to-1s.
Because I think one of the questions I have is, I'm not as good at reading this as my colleagues. Lots 8 through 13, the slope of the yards, are they usable? How sloped are they?
Don't mind me. Let me see.
Just knowing they're gonna be on a hill.
Okay, so this, so that you're down here, these are 3-to-1s coming down. There's about 20 feet behind them. These are swales that come down here. So there's some swales behind them. So they've got about 20 feet here to this small swale. More than enough room for a deck, play area. It's really not that much different than some of these over here. See how steep some of these are? So, and these houses could come forward some to provide more depending on what type of house box.
So they're gonna have room for deck and then it goes up?
It's gonna have room for deck, small flat yard, and then it will go up. And am I going up or going down here? Yeah. I wanna make sure. I'm going up. Mhm. Which provides, and of course, the trees, this neighbor here won't really see them because the houses will be sitting down. And then, of course, this is all wooded back here.
Okay.
And then these are all planted to screen here, to screen these folks. We did not screen this because this is coming up and this is all wooded.
So I suspect where it goes up, it's not usable, really.
There are some concerns with lots 4 and 5 and
Let me just make sure. 4 and
their
5.
proximity to the building restriction lines that are on there in relationship to some of the other yards.
Are you talking about the fact that they're side yards versus the rear yards?
A little bit, and the ability to expand other structures, because we all know that options get added to houses, and then we get requests for
If we needed to,
affections, so.
the lot 7 is fairly large. We could pull and make lot 6 larger. You know what I mean? Like we could pull them that way. We could also push, I'm just gonna say lot 4. Lot 4, let me see, that's lot 1 through 4. We could push back that way and make the rear yards have less of a minimum building line in those. That's not a problem.
I just don't want to hear whenever they come in that there's a BZA case.
To put a
because-
deck on, well, the decks
Right.
would fit, the decks would go, but if I want
covered
to do an
deck.
addition in the back.
Sunroom, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, because 4 in particular, that panhandle really
Right.
puts a little bit of a
We could certainly
squeeze on-
push them back. There's room to push them back, and we wouldn't be affecting anybody else on lot 1 because we're up against that stormwater facility. Are you making notes? Okay, thank you.
Lot 1 has a lot of problems with slope. That's very unusual. I mean, there isn't much usable land on that lot at all. It's even gonna be hard to cut, I think.
What do you think about turning the houses on lot
On
4 and
one-
5?
Oh,
Possibility also. I'm just,
I'm just throwing it up.
Yeah.
We have it facing the road. Could face the Houston Common driveway.
Good.
And then you wouldn't have a backyard to a side yard. Flip that. And as far as lot 1's concerned, lot 2 and 3 are don't have a lot of elevation change. Lot 1 has a walkout on the side, on the one side end of it, and has a fairly flat area off the back, because that actually has the largest area to put an addition or something like that off the back of it compared to the other ones. We could look at the grades on that, push the grades out some.
What's parcel A?
So that strip off of Lot 8,
This strip here,
yeah.
yeah, it's just a fluky piece that
Who owns it?
we do.
Part of the property.
It's part of the property,
So you'll maintain it.
unless somebody else as a joiner wants it, yep.
Auctioning it off this evening, actually.
It doesn't really, it's there, but it doesn't do anybody any good.
It's a wooded strip.
With one of the lots, but
But
then
it just
it
seemed-
just seemed like they wouldn't.
And it's
want
all
to have
wooded
that,
too, so
yeah,
it's not really, it's not really usable for the subdivision itself. It also isn't really usable to put a forest conservation easement on it either. It's too small.
Well, if it's part of the subdivision, Jonathan's going to require you to put it in an easement. If it's 35 feet wide, what's the scale on this? 30? You're close,
It's, yeah,
you're close,
depends on the condition of it.
yeah.
Do you scale?
Thank you, sir. Lower end, it's 33, and it's 33 to 38. He might take it.
Is the intention for this to be on a pressure sewer system, or how are we doing sewer for this?
There's a sewer connection down in the town's property down here. In this next property. See where parcel C is? There's
Yes.
sewer down there. We went over that with Steve Miller when we first started this, before we annexed in, about getting access to here, so it's not going to gravity to that location. No gravity to that location.
Just one other comment I have, and this is kind of addressing just a town maintenance concern, is that just look at the spacing between the driveways in that cul-de-sac when it comes to snow removal. You've got a plow truck working that circle, it's got to find a place to dump that snow.
I think on Halley Hill, didn't we I think we put an easement at the end of that thing for them to push the snow. As they came back that cul-de-sac, I think there's an easement, at least in section 2, there was an easement at the very end. We could do something like that.
You've got to have a place to put it.
We could
because
throw an
there's-
easement or something that nothing's built in, that the town has the ability to push the snow into it.
Yeah, because those driveways are only about,
You know, these driveways are double wides
yeah,
going in
they're
there.
about 8 or 9 feet apart at most there.
We're probably gonna ask you to move 2 of the driveways. So they, 2 driveways on one side of the end of the cul-de-sac abut, and then there's a
Yep.
space, widen that
Yeah.
and push straight
Yep.
back through. Yep.
That's what we did at Halley.
Flip-flop in?
We can take 12's driveway and move it and just push it straight back. Move this over here and put right here.
Oh, Bob's over there marking something up. Anybody else have any other questions?
Did the town have anything to comment on at this point?
I had one question. In the cul-de-sac, in the turnaround areas you're showing in the private drives, What are you showing in the middle? 'Cause
We're showing grass, and we have a 20-foot road going around them.
right,
You
I'd
tell
rather-
me if you want grass or you want it paved.
we'd rather have it all paved,
That's fine.
just in case. Well, I mean, grass you can go over, but I think it'd be easier for emergency equipment or anything else that needs to get back there.
Yeah.
And
I
then
don't have a
nobody has-
problem paving it.
nobody
County
has to
likes
cut
it. County likes the grass. You gotta like paved. That doesn't.
Yeah, but inevitably, when a plow comes through there,
We're not gonna plow.
I know that's private, but whoever plows it, they're
Right.
just gonna tear it up and it's gonna become a mess. As much as I'd like to see it more of an open space, practically, it doesn't work.
Nobody's gonna wanna cut it.
No.
Emergency services will need the extra turning radius.
Yeah.
By taking.
Yeah, I
that
was
out.
thinking that as well.
It's fine, because these are as big as your cul-de-sacs, but when you put that grass in the middle of it, you don't give them a whole lot of room to back out.
You good? So what do we want to say before we ask anybody in the audience to comment? They're going to look at the grading on possibly pushing the lot over, what was that? Using up some of the room on Lot 1 to absorb some of this, try to give a little more yard. And then they were also going to look at maybe Lot 7 as well.
Yes.
And then what were your thoughts on that house on Lot 1 versus,
It can twist a little bit, it's fine.
yeah, maybe reorient it a bit?
We still have space that we can work with. so,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, okay.
We just need to keep in mind with the grading that these property owners can maintain it, because we do still have town code that you can't go higher than 12 inches in grass. So
Right,
we had that worst issue on Starlight Court. Those people had to professionally get people to maintain their yards, so I'm going to keep that in mind. And
Yeah.
also, Linda wanted to see sidewalk on both sides of Briarway going back. The continuation of what's coming off of Washington Way.
That may be a problem. We'll look at it. Because it's only 40 feet.
It's 50-foot right away.
Did you look at the plat? I'll go back and check it. If it's 50, I'm good. But when you look at, and then you made the comment that the neighbor out there that has this fence,
I've already prepared him.
okay, because it's going to have to go way, like he's way,
I already told him.
that's fine.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I have concerns with unusable property. It's even worse, it's unmaintainable property. So that's a very valid.
Yeah, I don't have a problem running both sides of that sidewalk, as long as there's enough room to do it, and as long as he knows we're coming in.
Yeah.
Because I think he's either over right now.
Yeah, there's a 40-foot road, well, paving, it's 50-foot, so 40, I guess, what do we pave through there?
Well,
Was
it's
it
20. It's only 20, actually.
Paved.
Yes, the
it's
fill
probably
only-
20 on a 50.
I think,
because
yeah.
we had room for the
There's
sidewalk
physically
and the
only
utility.
20 feet. When those fillets come back and you measure across, there's only
Okay.
20 feet. Yeah.
I can't remember.
The question is the right of way. That's fine.
I think that's our major concerns. Now, we've got some neighbors who have signed in. Mr. Venanzi, did you want to speak on this issue?
I wanted to speak on Patriot Overlook.
Okay, well, that'll be after this one then, so. And then we've got a Mr. Stone here,
Also Patriot Overlook.
okay, and then Mr. Chamberlain, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
You have anything you would like to add at this point?
Right now, it's just what is the barrier between my property and the houses that are going to go along with my property? I heard you saying swale. She didn't have the microphone up there.
Why don't you come on up to the microphone and make your,
And just make sure. Thank you.
Plans right there.
Okay,
So you can see it 'cause you don't,
Yeah.
you're right here,
Yes.
and this is going down from your property, so there won't be
Yes.
any woods disturbance. So it's going to down. These houses will sit down lower than where the back of your property is.
Oh, understand, but how much room between my property and their property? Because on here, there's a 25-foot right-of-way, is there going to still be a 25-foot right-of-way for a
There's-
fire department to come in behind these houses?
No, they're gonna come in off the main road. They'll
So
come in this way.
these people are gonna be butted right up against
Yep.
my woods? What plan do you have? I know this is the only concept. What plan do you have for fences? What type of fence? Keep them off of my property? Their kids climbing into my trees?
We're not gonna be putting any fence up, Mr. Chairman.
I understand,
We
but
can't control the
what's?
individual property owners, so they'll
Sure
be
you
subject
can.
to whatever
Sure
the
you can.
town's
You
code
can
requirements
set,
are.
you can set what type of fence, how high the fence is going to be. Like I say, and to keep them off my property. That's gonna be my concern. There was a 25-foot, there's still a 25-foot on the back end of my property, okay? Did anybody take into consideration, I realize the fire department to come here, but what to do to come in behind these places when they're in inferno? They burn, my trees burn, my house burns.
I mean, I'll answer that. I don't know if anybody from the town wants to answer that as well or chime in, but the access will be provided here. Emergency services will come from here and have direct access to all of those units, which is probably much better than utilizing any previous existing right-of-way would have been, because this is all going to be paved, driveways are going to be in existence, you know, so this is going to provide much better and faster access to any of those units than anything that currently exists.
Okay, realize you're saying this is sloping down.
Yes.
I heard you say something about a swale.
There's a
Is
swale.
that where the swale is going to be?
Yeah, the swale's sitting here. And
Okay.
then down here farther, there's gonna be a swale that comes, so all the water that comes off of your property is gonna end up in this swale that comes
Right.
down. And then
Okay.
everything that comes off of them is gonna end up in this swale.
Okay,
This is a steeper slope.
yes,
These houses are a minimum of 40 feet from the back of your property.
okay,
Okay, this setback here is 40 feet,
40 feet,
40 feet. Now,
okay.
if the homeowners like, I'm not saying about the fencing, but when we don't, as an engineer,
I
we don't
understand.
restrict that. The
I un-
homeowners association, or the
Okay.
town could come in and tell us we have to do that.
That's why I was looking at the town.
No, well, no, we're listening to your comments. This,
Okay.
they're
Yes,
just
sir.
looking at this point for an idea as to whether to proceed with this concept. We're not giving them any approval tonight.
I understand.
We can condition any approval if we feel that you've raised a legitimate concern about potential encroachment. We could request that they run a fence along your property boundary. And
Yes,
we're
sir.
listening to you, we hear you.
Oh, yes, sir.
So-
You guys do, I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
so we're not, that's something we consider. Right now, they're just asking for, is the concept
Yes,
something
sir.
that they can proceed a little further along? We're not giving them an approval.
I understand.
So,
Now,
so-
what are we gonna do about this one coming up here off of Jamer Drive? Originally, that Jamer Drive was,
Mr. Chamberlain, can you hold on a second, Councilman?
Question for you. Before we go to your next issue.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned a 25-foot easement. Correct. Where are you talking? Because unfortunately, I cannot see where you're pointing on that plan.
oh, okay, I'll come
Yes.
over to your map if you want.
That's fine.
The back of my property. And thank you. Okay, so we're looking here, along here, this is my property. Along here is the 25-foot right-of-way, which used to be the tractor road.
Yep.
Right.
That's the same thing that goes here, was a tractor road. That's all I'm asking is for that buffer to still stay in place.
You're saying 25-foot
Y-
in your
yes, sir.
property is a buffer strip.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's on your property. Okay.
Well, no, between my property and this property.
Oh, so it's 12 and a half feet on each side.
Is that what it is? Okay,
Then we've got a mapping, because we're not showing a buffer property.
Right.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
No problem.
Now, I do have to go, yeah, I'm going up here to lot number 14.
Okay?
That part of Jamer Drive that comes off of Susan Ann was an regress driveway. Unfortunately, neighbors don't get along. The neighbors up here did not say, well, they said they did not use that property, that driveway. I put up that fence, realized you had some complaints about it. I put that little cattle fence. You're not paying me to maintain that road, you're not using that road. So then my concern is going to be with lot 14. It comes from Susan Ann down a little ways, it's blacktop. I would ask, or what is your thoughts on extending that blacktop down to at least that corner of that Lot 14's property line? Because I'm sure that homeowner is going to do the same thing. I'm not going to pay for that maintained. I couldn't tell you how many loads of stone, you guys know, you're in the country, it washes out. And when you don't have people helping you, it does get you a little thorn in your side. So that's going to be my concern. And I realize that, yes, the entrance to that property is going to be off of that Chamber Drive, not coming to what is basically my drive to go in there.
Yeah, we're not coming off onto yours yet.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, that is one thing you could,
Originally, it was coming back here.
Yeah,
We
it
didn't
comes-
use that. We kept it shorter, so we
right,
weren't on that driveway.
and I appreciate that. Now we have to worry about, and I realize it's just concept, but this is my concerns before we even get any further. Okay, like I say, Chamber Drive was egress, regress. You take, everybody's supposed to maintain that road. Well, I already have these three people up here going, no, no, so I'm gonna have another fourth. That's the way I get out of my property, is that Jamer Drive. That's gonna be my concern. Also, if you come down that drive, Manchester Farms did put that concrete culvert or whatever, and then they put that riprap. Is that gonna be disturbed? Because that's runoff from Manchester Farms up the road where those people regraded their lots. And I know you couldn't do anything about it because it was already done, and they're not mowing that grass on those hills all the time. It's 3 feet already, not 12 inches. Some people have mowed, they've mowed up where the swale is for the, I guess, go down to the pond or whatever, but they're not coming down the hill and mowing that. One or two are, the other ones have one on the corner there, putting weed killer, grass killer on that slope so they don't have to mow it. I've seen her out there do it. But like I say, main concern then is going to be, what kind of maintain are we going to do on that entrance off of Susan Ann? Rest of it seems fine to me. I have no problem. You say down here you're going to be planting what, trees?
Yeah, we're gonna be planting a whole bunch of trees there.
And I'm like you, that's been soggy for so long. What's down there hidden? Is somebody down there looking for something that has to be protected
Yes, please.
by whatever environmental agency? Appreciate the fact that you're going to plant. On that, I realize this is concept. You did ask for a walkway. You know, this is my, my
I know,
lane.
I'm not sure where it's going yet.
Where are we going to put that walkway for these people to, I guess, enjoy the deer and the fox and the different things that are going to be disturbed? They're probably going to go like, what the heck is going on here? Okay? And I don't know, like you say, I like to protect my property, but, and I know deer can jump up real high, but they come through my woods, they bed down there, they go over to this other property, you see them every evening, every morning. I don't know. But I realize people have to live, so don't get me wrong, okay? All right, thank you for your time.
We
Thank
appreciate
you,
your
ladies.
comments. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
What I would say is, as far as JMAR, as we move through the process, if we need to, you know, have an agreement, even if it's only between Lot 14 and Mr. Chamberlain, to have some type of maintenance on that portion of it, we could do just a maintenance agreement between those two, understanding he's already got neighbors that don't want to agree. And it could go in edict that whoever buys 14 has to help maintain it. Which probably would have done it anyway, because we're doing it on the use in commons, so it would be the same type of agreement.
We certainly need to see in the next round of plans, whatever stage that is a better idea of where the driveway is. Right now, we see a bit of it, and then it kind of disappears into the
Yeah.
contours. Same thing with Tractor Road, just kind of approximate.
It's a problem.
I mean, just so
Yeah.
there's a better idea of
Mhm.
where we're looking at and not guessing.
So that's about it. Our comments, primarily some grading concerns that you're going to address and look at. You've heard Mr. Chamberlain's concerns. Some of those we'll address as we move forward. And then orientation of driveways on the cul-de-sac. And I think those are the primary issues at this point, maybe the orientation of the house on Lot 1.
We appreciate that feedback.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
How does this thing go in here? It's not going in. There we go.
There you go.
Was anybody else on there to comment for?
No, that's it. So now we will go.
Oh, I think
Okay, well, we'll, after we go with the other people, we will go ahead and have you come on up and make whatever comments you have. So let's start. This is regarding Patriots Overlook, which is not on the agenda, but we have citizens here who want to make some comments, so we're happy to hear them. Mr. Venanzi, can you please come on up? How are you this evening?
Good, and you?
Doing well, thank you.
I just wanted to check in. I noticed it wasn't on the agenda for today, but I'd like to know the status of what's going on with Patriots Overlook.
after they did their TRC meeting and they're getting their comments, they haven't even gotten concept approval from us. So I assume they'll put their comments all together and be back here in a couple months.
Right.
Yeah.
They had a number of comments from the county.
And they're very, very difficult to find online.
They shouldn't be.
No, they should be in that portal with all the
Yeah.
comments. But I can,
And then it's still difficult to find in the portal, looking for it.
that's fine. I can send you copies.
Yeah,
It's not a big
yeah,
deal.
you- she can email
I can
everything to
email.
you or mail them to you if you want
So
hard
then-
copies.
So then all their comments then come to you, or I know some of them went directly to the,
They actually go back to the engineer for the project.
Right.
We get copies. of
And
them.
we're copied of those comments because the engineer's the one who's addressing them.
okay,
So, but we'll get you copies of everything.
thank you. And then you've received 2 letters from me as well?
Yes.
Ms. Michelle?
Yes, I
We
just
have.
gave them the last one today.
Yeah, we got the one dated May 19th today.
Okay,
And we will read them and take them under consideration as we do every citizen's concerns.
thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
No, just
From them so
appreciate you
far?
coming out and keeping track of things and expressing your concerns.
Thank you.
Mr. Stone?
I have no comments now after hearing survey, so thank you.
Okay. Sir, if you could, when you come up to the mic, please give us your name and address so we can have it for the record.
My name is Jean-Baptiste Regnard, 3823 Water Tank Road.
Okay.
So we're relatively new to Manchester, and we love it. Been here 4 years. Regarding the development, the question, just a broad question is why? You know, the legitimate question, why? Go down Main Street, look towards Hampstead, 2:30 in the afternoon, you're stuck, you're paralyzed, you can't go anywhere. And just, there's already water shortage for the past year and a half, and there's more houses with yards and bedrooms and showers and all that stuff. And as a family, we were interested in hosting an exchange student, which we thought would have been awesome for a year, and we were denied. They said, there's no more space in the school. So, 14 homes, 2, 3 kids each, what about that? So just, we've been here, and I don't want to be a NIMBY person, but like, at one point, you can't undo that. You can't, the traffic that's already like in our faces. I lived in Northern Virginia. At 2 o'clock, if you didn't leave your house, you were in a bad situation, and it's already that now. If I need to go get some eggs or, you know, God forbid, at the hospital, you can't turn off Main Street. You know what I'm talking about? So just like, I don't want this beautiful area to be Frederick. I don't want it to be Loudoun County. Like I said, the schools are at capacity. So you can't undo this. You can't go back and say, whoopsie, because at some of these developments, people are already saying, So I just beg you to ask, is this really necessary considering the mess that we're already in? Because I don't want to repeat myself, you can't undo it. So that's all I have to say. Love it living here. Thank you for giving me the time to talk. But at what point is enough? At what point does the small town of Manchester turn into Bel Air or Frederick or?
Well, let me answer that a little bit for you. I'm not going to elaborate too deeply, but we as a town are cognizant of the small town feel that we are trying to maintain. We do have limits on how far we can develop because of our water and sewer capacities, and Alex can speak to that more if you need to hear more
It
about
sounds like
that.
there's already good trouble.
Yeah, but we have a water and sewer plan that identifies how many residential dwelling units we're allowed to have as a town, and we've agreed to that sort of a self-cap based on our capacities. So we're never going to become Frederick. We just don't have the capacity to do that. I mean, we do have traffic on 30. Unfortunately, we can't control southern Pennsylvania.
I understand.
And there's a new development going up there right now with almost 400 units. So a lot of our traffic is passed through to the north of us, and we can't control that. As far as the school systems go, there are also adequate facilities regulations that apply to the schools. We may approve a development, but if there's no school capacity, we can't release building permits for them to do the work. So, you know, there's restrictions there. If a school analysis that's done for the project by the county determines that capacity is not available, we can't release permits to allow those homes to be constructed. But then you also have to look at it from the town's perspective. We have property that has particular zoning, and those property owners do have a right to pursue development in accordance with the rules and regulations in the zoning code of the town of Manchester. For us to prohibit them from doing anything would represent a taking on the part of the town to those individuals. Now, we can control what they do based on, as you've heard, citizens' comments, if they're asking for any relief from our zoning regulations. But those regulations are there, and the zoning on a property is there to guide how that property is envisioned to be developed within the town. So we have to walk the line of, we understand your concerns. We don't like being stuck in that traffic any more than anybody else, between 3:30 and 6 o'clock out there on 30. And, we understand when the schools get over capacity, how it's frustrating and all. But we also have to be cognizant that we operate under a set of zoning regulations that permit certain uses in certain zones. And that's what we review up here. That's why we ask for the citizens to participate, because we want to hear what your concerns are, and if there's something we can do to address or ameliorate your concerns, such as Mr. Chamberlain here, who's attended all the meetings on the Cook property, we will do what we can do to incorporate it. We hear the public, but we also have to understand that if somebody is doing something in accordance with our zoning code, that we have to give it consideration and give it either an approval or disapproval. And if we disapprove, we have to have a strong reason as to why we wouldn't accept it.
Totally understand.
And-
Just have nightmares of living in Northern Virginia.
I understand.
And then one last thing. When we were denied the exchange student, which I thought was a disservice to this entire community, to withhold a cultural experience from these high school students who might never leave Maryland, you know what I'm saying? But I fought. I contacted the superintendent's office and I said, hey, I pay taxes. Why can't I have a kid? I'm paying for them. They're not taking a kid's job. If anything, this is gonna cost us a fortune to host a kid. And they put their foot down. They're like, we are full. So this just happened a week ago, and we're still fighting. We're negotiating, maybe having the kids at Winter's Mill. So that's an hour and a half commute for me to host a kid. But we're willing to do that because we want the experience. But it's a shame that we live 2 miles from Manchester, and they said, stop calling us. That's not gonna happen.
No, I have a comment.
So that's all I'm saying, is 14 houses to me sounds like a lot, considering the schools, what they're telling me, and the traffic. But thank you very much for your time.
Well,
I
thank
really
you for your
appreciate it.
opinion. We appreciate it.
Sir, I always keep notes. I missed where your address was,
3823,
3823?
Water tank.
yep.
Thank you.
I do have a comment on that, because as we are reviewing site plans, I have contacted the county and the schools to make sure that we're still under that 120%. So if that has changed, then that's going to change a lot of our review right now. So I need to
Right.
follow through with that, because we were not told that when we began this particular development, nor Patriots, nor any of them. So this is new to us. But that is part of our adequate facilities, and that is
Right.
something we do check.
Do you have anything in writing from the school system
Oh,
stating that yet?
yes, and I specifically said, what if I wanted to foster a child? What if my niece and nephew became orphans and I needed to take care of them? Would they be allowed? And they gave me the runaround and said they're stopping. They have two exchange students a year, period. And then when I called the Mr. King, the director of high schools, he was not.
But they put in writing that the capacity is
Or did they just write that they were not going to allow you to?
now allow students.
There was multiple emails sent, because I didn't take no for an answer. So there was no phone calls, it was all in writing.
Okay.
We better check on that.
Is it no to the additional exchange student, or is it no to the student population overall? It's a
little
difference.
closed-minded to me. I think he was trying to control things, but it was I'm dealing with a group that works with scholarship winners in Europe. So they're not rich kids who are getting a vacation. These kids, there's 35,000 kids who applied, and 2% get in, which is harder than Harvard. And one of the kids is Ukrainian, and his parents are in the military. So the parents wanted to give him a break. We have a nice house, come on out, and then nope. So they said no to, and they're at capacity. And they said we're full, or no, we're closed. Closed.
If you have time to stay for after the meeting, I'd like to talk to you about that. There's the difference between
It's a big
the
difference.
the school not accepting additional exchange students versus students, period. There's a huge set of ramifications for that, and if that's in writing,
There was a lot of.
Yeah, I'd like to
because
see it
what
and
about this?
discuss
What about that? When I brought a direct point, what about this? And then the principal of Manchester ignored my points, and then finally, Mr. King brought up and he said something ignorant. He said, they're not, I don't want like rich kids, and I'm like, well, these are kids who are, they need.
yeah, if
Yeah,
if
we'd
you
like
could
to
have
hear
minute-
more, because if somebody moved into town and had 6 children, they're going to school. I mean, they're going to go
Yeah.
to school, so there's, why
Yeah,
they wouldn't,
there's.
why they, I mean,
ramifications.
a house goes up for sale, it's a empty nester selling it, and a family moves in with 4 or 5 kids, and they're spaced a year apart, so 3 of them might be going to middle school and 2 to high school. they're not going to be denied entrance, so it seems very odd.
It sounds like it's being treated as an out-of-district request.
Yeah,
You just want to go to this particular school, you should be going to some other school type of request, but interesting.
but he's on Water Tank and tried to get into Manchester Valley, which is
Right.
right around the corner,
Right.
so,
Yeah, if you have a couple minutes to stay after the meeting, I'd like to talk about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Can you come up to the mic? Give us your name and address.
So my name is Emma Powell. I am at 2802 Park Avenue. So I am going to NIMBY comment on this, the Patriots Overlook. But I did have a question kind of related to the capacity of just most of the systems in terms of evaluating the cumulative capacity. If, you know, it sounds like we have several developments in concept review. So with Patapsco, Patriots Overlook, the one closer to Main Street on Park, Equine. So if all of those go in, the capacity, water and sewer, schools, traffic study, that kind of things, that was evaluated for that, like the whole bunch of them together, or is it individually and then?
As they go through the process and they
Right.
are submitted to the county reviews for all of those adequate facilities.
And
In
that,
addition.
and that density is considered when we work up the master water and sewer plan for the town. We figure this is zone this, how many units can there be here? And that's all calculated in to the capacity for the town, so we do account for those.
Is that a yearly?
How often do we update that?
Michelle and I have spent hours
We
during
are-
the day working specifically with water and sewer.
Okay.
We receive, for water specifically, the Maryland Department of the Environment gives us a daily allocation. We're fine with all those developments, and there's other small parcels in town that have yet to be built on or could be built on. The problem with the water system is it comes out of a well, and we have to ensure that the well will recharge itself. So, yes, are we a little stringent on our water? Yes, but you always have water and you always will have water. We just try to knock down some of the things like washing cars,
Right.
squirting off your driveway, those kind of things.
To
We
continue
lower that,
recharging
we maintain,
aquifer.
right, we maintain the well level. So that's the feeling behind that. For sewer, our sewage treatment plant has a capacity of 400,000 gallons treated per day. Once we get to that level, which is 80%, we have a whole nother set of Maryland Department of the Environment regulations we have to follow. So we're very aware of every house, every toilet flush, everything. We know down to the last gallon what'll be used. And I'm not gonna mince words, we're gonna be close. When everything is built out in town, when the town is completely built out, we're gonna be close. But we'll still be able to treat everything according to MDE regulation.
Okay.
So the traffic, I think Mr. Leskinen or Chairman Leskinen said it perfectly. We can't control what's happening above us. And the further north you go towards Hanover, it's just building and building and building. And we see that traffic come through and back and forth.
But when we do require traffic studies, it is a built
That's my
upon.
question. It's a what?
It's a built upon. So what's approved, we assume that all those houses are built when
Yep.
they do their numbers. Next application, next application, next application, they all coincide. It's not everyone coming in individually at one time.
Right.
Right.
So,
It's like a race to get their development built before
right.
meeting that. So, at the county planning and zoning or technical review committee meeting, earlier in the month, I think the statement was that it didn't like require a traffic impact study, but it was within the threshold that, they would leave it up to the town to evaluate it. And I think particularly for along Park Avenue in general, I would just request that you take into consideration, doing that before approving Equine or Patriots Overlook conceptually. And I guess looking back into the schools, because I feel like once the concept for Patriots Overlook hit the internet, there were a number of comments, I feel like, that from people within the school systems that were like, oh, this is going to be so bad. And so, they have obviously anecdotal evidence within the schools, and if that's the number, the capacity can actually allow all those single-family homes with an assumed number of kids, then, that's what it is. But I would request that it be reviewed again prior to concept approval. And then, just the other issue, we're waiting on a lot of updates from the Patriots Overlook, response to comments and updates to the plans. I know grading and stormwater management and all sorts of, they didn't get did they send a DNR, did they have a consultation with DNR yet with regard to any potential rare?
I haven't seen any letters yet.
No.
Okay, so
we
we're
have
like,
not
it's still
seen that.
super early and.
Yeah.
Now, have you seen any of the comments? Have you been in the portal and saw?
I did go to the portal. I saw, what I downloaded was the, basically the written comments from the technical review committee meeting on the county, but I have not seen any like the written public comments or, I think anything else. But there was, I believe I spoke with you, and I do need to request specifically the four-stand delineation for Patriots Overlook, and whatever other documentation is not available to be put on the portal because of size.
Well, it looked like
constraints.
there might have to be some significant revisions to that because they were calling stuff old field, and it sounded like Mr. Bowman thought it had generated into forest.
It's very
So
thickly
I
forested.
think,
Yeah,
I
it may
think they
not
have
be
to
like-
revisit that issue.
Yeah. There is, the concept plans looked like they were minimizing the amount of forest cover in that entire area.
Well, Mr. Bowman doesn't seem to think it's as minimal as the plan showed.
Right.
Okay. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else with any comments, or is-
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about traffic studies.
Chris, go ahead.
You're
so quiet all the time, I really want to hear something.
I was mayor for 18 years. I've been on the council I lost count there. I'm going past 25 years working with the town, heading towards 30 years. And I have never seen a traffic study that is worth the paper that it's written on. Every traffic study I have seen approves it. And you see what traffic we have here and what the problems are and what they were before. I mean, even at the point of, some of you might not even remember, when we were looking at a bypass. And the state of Maryland poo-pooed that. So don't get your hopes up about, we'll ask for one. And I know what it's going to say. It's going to say, yeah, there's going to be an impact. And there's, everybody goes out, 14 houses there, they go out twice a day. And so there's going to be X number of cars on Park Avenue. That light in town here, in the center of town, is probably going to be marked as a failure. But you know what they're going to say? Approved. They're not going to say the traffic is too bad to approve this neighborhood. So I just want to caution you all, please don't hold out for a good result on traffic, because they're useless. They're useless. And many of them are conducted by the developer themselves. And you know how that's going to turn out. So, and that's darn near 30 years worth of reading those things, and they're useless. So, Henry, I'll send it back over to you. I just wanted to
Well, that's
make that-
fine. You calm down a little bit now?
Yep.
Any other business from the board? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Good night, everyone.